Hey, everybody. This is really early for me. I never come on this early, but exclusive. We got the Smokey Robinson lawsuit. So Smokey Robinson, at the age of 85, is being accused of Diddy-like behavior. And so, I thought about this as I was reading it, and I said to myself, oh my gosh. So if this man is doing this at 85, if Diddy wasn't stopped, his song would have really been for real, for real. Can't stop, won't stop. Because Diddy's in his 50s. And they said all the way up until 2025, he had allegedly his latest freak off before he got, I'm saying 2025, I meant to say 2024, before he got arrested. So now Smokey Robinson is being accused of SAing former employees. And they done dragged the wife into this situation too, saying the wife knew. So they holding them both responsible. And these four Jane Does want $50 million. Now, some of them, and over here, so we're not going to go all the way low and say, oh, stop victim shaming and all of that. But some of them said they endured this for more than 20 years. Now, I got the lawsuit. I'm going to do the reading of the whole lawsuit. So you know what? Because it's long, we might as well go ahead and get right into it. Let me go ahead and share screen. Let me make sure I got the right page here. Okay, I got it. So it's John W. Harris, Esquire. So that's the law firm, attorneys, and those are the attorneys for the plaintiffs. This was filed in the state of California Superior Court of Los Angeles. So it's Jane 1, an individual, Jane 2, an individual, Jane 3, an individual, and Jane 4, an individual. Those are four plaintiffs against William, that's his government name, Robinson Jr., aka Smokey Robinson, an individual, Francis Robinson, an individual, and Does 1 through 25 inclusive. So they're also, they threw the wife in this lawsuit. So there's the case number right there. So complaint for damages: negligence, sexual battery, assault, false imprisonment. Listen, this man 85, but this is not a criminal case. It's a civil lawsuit. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, neglect, infliction of emotional distress, negligent infliction of emotional distress, gender violence, the Ralph Act, the Bain Act, hostile work environment, constructive discharge in violation of FEHA, failure to pay minimum wage. Now, listen, it seems like these celebrities have a blueprint. None of them want to pay, and they want to violate the people allegedly. Okay. Failure to pay overtime, inaccurate wage statements, failure to provide rest periods, and that's a labor code, failure to provide meal periods. I mean, people are crazy. So plaintiffs Jane Does 1 through 4 inclusive, hereafter referred to as plaintiffs, are individuals in their complaint against defendants William Robinson Jr., aka Smokey Robinson, and Francis Robinson. Hereafter, we're going to be referred to as the defendants, okay? In our defendant Smokey Robinson, in defendant Francis Robinson, and Does 1 through 25 inclusive, complain and allege as follows. The parties, plaintiffs, and remember they said the plaintiffs are all four Jane Does. And at all relevant times mentioned herein were individuals residing in the county of Los Angeles within the state of California. Plaintiffs are adult females suing under pseudonyms to protect their privacy because it involves sexual misconduct by defendant Smokey Robinson. Upon information to believe, defendant Smokey Robinson is, and at all relevant times mentioned herein, was an individual doing substantial business in the county of Los Angeles within the state of California, employed by the plaintiffs, in each of them, and caused injuries and damages to them in the county of Los Angeles, state of California. Let's continue here. Defendant William Robinson Jr. is a legendary American R&B and soul singer. Hold on, guys. I got to dim my light a little bit. I'm sorry if it's dark. That light was glaring in my eyes and on my glasses. I hope I can still read this to you with the light dim. I may have to adjust it again, but let's continue. Defendant William Robinson Jr. is a legendary American R&B and soul singer, songwriter, record producer, and former record executive and renowned entertainer. He was the founder and frontman of the pioneering Motown vocal group, The Miracles, for which he was also chief songwriter and producer. Defendant William Robinson Jr. is best known by his stage name, Smokey Robinson. Defendant Frances Robinson is defendant Smokey Robinson's spouse and was also at times material herein plaintiff's employer along with Smokey Robinson. That's how they dragged the wife in. The true names, identity, and capacities wherever individual associated, corporate, or otherwise of defendants, those 1 to 25, inclusive, are unknown to plaintiffs, who therefore sues these defendants by such fictitious names pursuant to Code of Civil Procedure. When the true names and capacities of such fictitiously designated defendants are ascertained, plaintiffs will amend this complaint to insert their true names, identities, and capacities together with the proper charging allegations. Plaintiffs are informed and believe that each of the defendants sued herein as those are responsible in some manner for the events and happenings alleged in this complaint, and therefore legally causing the injuries and damages to plaintiffs as set forth in this complaint. Plaintiffs are informed and believe that each of the defendants herein was at all times relevant hereto the agent, employee, employer, subsidiary, parent company, representative, and are co-conspirators of remaining defendants and was acting at least in part within the course and scope of such relationship. Jurisdiction and venue. The court has proper jurisdiction over this action pursuant to the Code of Civil Procedure. Plaintiffs allege that the amount claimed in excess of jurisdictional minimum of this court. Venue is proper to this court, and they give you the laws. So factual allegations. So this is Jane Doe complaint. So let's hear this. Plaintiff Jane Doe 1 realleges and incorporates by reference paragraphs 1 through 10 as those set forth herein in full. Jane Doe 1 began working for defendants as their housekeeper at their Chatsworth residence on January 3rd, 2023. So this is recent, until February 2024, when she was forced to resign due to defendant Smokey Robinson repeated SA and harassment against her. The first SA occurred in March 2023, and it continued into her forced resignation in February 2024. Jane Doe 1 worked on the weekends for the defendants when the rest of the staff was off. On a typical Saturday, defendant Smokey Robinson would take defendant Frances Robinson to the nail salon and would rush home knowing that he would be alone with Jane Doe. Upon returning home, Smokey will call her into his blue bedroom. So I guess he had a blue bedroom. Lock the door and escort their dog Shiloh out of the room. He will have showered and clothed only his underwear. He would then neatly place a white towel on his bed, not to soil the bed linens, in preparation for what was about to occur. Defendant Smokey Robinson would then begin to kiss her in the mouth, neck, and her breast. Then he will roughly penetrate her in her private area with his fingers. He will orally violate her, okay? And then he would put his body parts into hers, and it caused her great pain. Defendant Smokey Robinson enjoyed releasing himself inside of her without using a condom. Jane Doe would protest and resist his SAs, but to no avail. And despite attempt to get him to stop his SA, she would proclaim, "You're married," to which he would casually ignore. Defendant Smokey would then begin to kiss Jane Doe in the mouth. I think I read that. Okay, so 19. Defendant Smokey Robinson SA Jane Doe in that matter at least 7 times. The last assault occurred on February 17, 2024, prompting her forced resignation on February 2024. Jane Doe was unwilling to report defendant Smokey unlawful acts to the authorities due to fear of losing her livelihood, familial reprisal, public embarrassment, shame and humiliation to her family, to her and her family, and the possible adverse effect of her immigration status. Oh. As well as being threatened and intimidated by defendant Smokey Robinson, well-known recognized celebrity status, and his influential friends and associates. So, you know, that kind of speaks volumes right there too, right? The fact that she was, hey, y'all, I'm live. The fact that she was an illegal immigrant. Where am I at? I think 21. Defendant Frances Robinson failed to take the appropriate corrective action to prevent Smokey Robinson's deviant misconduct against Jane Doe, despite having full knowledge of his prior acts of sexual misconduct, having settled cases, oh my gosh, with other women that suffered and experienced similar sexual assaults perpetrated by him. Defendant Frances Robinson also perpetrated a hostile work environment by regularly screaming at Jane Doe in a hostile manner, using ethnically pejorative words and language. During Jane Doe's employment with defendants, she worked 10 hours per day, 3 days per week, Saturday through Monday, at a rate of $18 per hour. They failed to pay minimum wage or pay overtime wages for her hours and worked in excess of 8 hours. Nor provided rest on lunch breaks. She will often work holidays for defendants without being paid the holiday rate. Defendants also failed to pay JD wage statements for the hours worked. So that's Jane Doe 1. So Jane Doe 2, plaintiff Jane Doe 2, realleges and incorporates by reference in the following paragraphs. Jane Doe 2 began working for defendants as a housekeeper at their Chatsworth residence in on about May 2024 until February 2020, when she was forced to resign due to defendant Smokey Robinson's repeated SA and XH against her. Smokey brutal advances were constant and even predictable throughout her employment with the defendants. Defendant Smokey Robinson SA began in the later part of 2016 when they were home alone. He would text message her, asking her to meet him at areas in their Chatsworth residence where closed circuit cameras were located. He would then summons her to either the laundry room or the garage where there were no cameras. When arriving, he would immediately grab her and begin to penetrate her in her private area with his fingers, causing pain, and then he would proceed to R her. Defendant Smokey also forced her into a blue bedroom and make her perform oral on his private part. Thereafter, he would proceed to penetrate her without a condom. And again, he did the same thing like he did to the other one. He would release himself on her face to his satisfaction and her humiliation. Defendant Smokey Robinson SA'd her in this matter at least 23 different occasions. Defendant Smokey Robinson would threaten her that if she refused to have sex with him, he would make defendant Frances Robinson be mean to her, which she was very capable of being. The Jane Doe 2 was unwilling to report defendant Robinson unlawful acts to the authorities due to a fear of losing her livelihood. The same thing as the other one. Familial reprisal, public embarrassment, shame, humiliation to her and her family, and because of all his influence. Defendant Frances Robinson failed to take the appropriate corrective actions because they're saying she knew about it. Same as Jane Doe 1. Let's see. Jane Doe's employment with the defendant, she worked 10 hours per day, 6 days per week, Monday through Saturday, at a rate of $10 per hour, increased to $12 in 2017. They failed to pay minimum or overtime wages for her hours worked, including those in excess of 8 hours, nor provided rest or lunch breaks. She will often work holidays for the defendants without being paid the holiday rate. Defendants also failed to provide Jane Doe wage statements for hours worked. So they couldn't even get like, like W-2s. So I wonder if they was even able to file taxes. So him and his wife was a whole riot. So now this is Jane Doe 3. Began working for defendants as a housekeeper in their residence in February 2012 to April 2024. That's a long time. When she was forced to resign due to Smokey's, harassment. Defendant Smokey Robinson repeatedly sexually harassed her, sexually assaulted her, and argued her during most of her entire employment with the defendants. Defendant Smokey Robinson would force her into the blue room. Everybody is saying this blue room. They saying the same thing. He had a ritual of coming out either nude or in his underwear after he showered. He would put a towel on the bed so that it wouldn't mess up the linens. This one, he said she had forced her to lie face down on the towel so that he can penetrate her in her private area and also from the rear. I'm skipping some wording in this because it's very, it's a lot. Defendant Smokey Robinson repeatedly argued her in this manner at least 20 times. On one occasion, JD resisted his advances. Smokey Robinson offered her $500 to allow him to orally violate her, and she refused the offer. When not attempting to penetrate her in her private area, defendant Smokey would make unwanted advances against her, touching her breast, her private area, kissing her on her neck, and on her back, and in her mouth. JD resigned the positions on April 22, 2024 because of all of his daily harassment. Sorry about that, guys. She was also unwilling to report it, similar to the same things as the other lady said. And again, they're blaming Frances Robinson, his wife, because they said she knew how he was and she allowed it. But not only that, they said that she created a hostile environment by treating them badly. And again, this one must be from a different ethnicity because she's saying, again, the wife will call them very bad names. She says she worked 10-hour days, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, at a rate of $18 per hour. And again, they failed to pay her overtime. They failed to pay her for holidays, and they never gave her a W-2 either. Now, Jane Doe number 4, she alleges that she worked for defendants as a housekeeper at their home, including being defendants Frances Robinson, personal assistant, cook, and hairdresser in or about October 2006 until April 22, 2024, when she was forced to resign due to Smokey Robinson harassing them. Defendant Smokey first sexually assaulted her in 2007 when she accompanied him to his Las Vegas home, where while they're alone with him, defendant Smokey forced her into his bedroom and he argued her. The essays continued there and other places in or about mid-2019. Jane Doe number 4 was asked by defendant Smokey to accompany him to his temporary residence located in Bell Canyon to clean. While cleaning the master bedroom, Smokey showered and returned to his bedroom naked with his private area aroused. He then proceeded to pull back the sheets and carefully place a towel down, not to soil the bed linens for what was about to occur. He then began to kiss her breast, neck, and proceeded to kiss her in a private area, and then he argued her. Smokey Robinson will often create a situation or seize opportunity where he would be alone with Jane Doe 4 at the Chatsworth residence when the other housekeeper would leave the residence. Defendant Smokey Robinson would summon her to the blue room. It's something about that blue room for him. While sitting naked on his bed, he would then lock the door and place a towel down on the bed. After doing so, he would pull Jane Doe clothes off and against her protestations, push her down on the bed and proceed to awe her. Defendant Robinson never used a condom during these SAs. He released himself in her and on her, and she was humiliated. Defendant Smokey Robinson would constantly admire and touch Jane Doe's breast, kiss her neck, and force his tongue in her mouth. His sexual harassment and assaults continued to be the very day she decided to resign her employment with the defendants. Jane Doe 4 was unwilling to report, again because of his influence in his name. Defendant Frances Robinson, they said, failed to step in because they said she knew what her husband was doing. She also, they say, all of them are saying she created a hostile work environment by regularly screaming at them and calling them names. And she worked 10-hour days, 6 days a week, and she only got $15 an hour, which was raised to $20 per hour in 2018. And they failed again to give her any evidence of like a W-2. So they had no rest breaks, no lunch breaks. They just worked like modern day slaves. So these are all the things that they are charged, like that they're accusing him of in this civil lawsuit. First cause of action is negligence. Plaintiffs reallege and incorporate, well, let me skip that. Defendants acted negligently and carelessly when they caused personal injury to plaintiffs. Defendants owed plaintiffs a duty to exercise reasonable care. Defendants breached their duty to exercise reasonable care when they caused physical, emotional, and monetary harm to the plaintiffs. Defendants' proximity caused plaintiffs to suffer economic damages as well as physical harm. Defendants' negligence was a substantial factor in causing plaintiffs physical and economical harm. The second cause of action is sexual battery, and it's against defendant Smokey Robinson. The first one is by plaintiffs against all the defendants. I mean, Smokey, his wife, and some others that they didn't name. This one, sexual battery, is just against Smokey Robinson. Okay, and we read all the things that, you know, as to why they're saying sexual battery, and it's a lot there. Assault. The third cause of action, again, is just against Smokey Robinson. It's all the Jane Does, it's for them, against Smokey Robinson, okay? And we read the things that can comply with this assault. Now, false imprisonment, because they said, you know, that's all just against Smokey Robinson. Because again, they would say, you know, he would lock that blue room whenever he violated somebody in that blue room. And he kind of forced them to stay against their will until, you know, he did whatever he wanted to do. Now, intentional infliction of emotional distress is a plaintiff against all the defendants. So this particular one includes his wife and some other people they didn't quite name yet. And it could be because they don't know all their names. They just know the people that work there and that kind of, you know, did what Smokey wanted them to do, or what Smokey's wife Frances wanted them to do. And at least in this particular lawsuit, unlike a lot of the Diddy lawsuits, you can give it to them because they want other people to pay for this too, but they probably just don't know their names. The seventh cause of action is against Smokey Robinson, is gender violence. The third one is the Ralph Act, and it's just against Smokey Robinson. Now, I don't know much about this Ralph Act, right? But during the scope of employment, the defendant, Smokey Robinson, violated plaintiff's rights to be free from threat of violence or intimidation by threat of violence. So that must have something to do with this Ralph Act. Plaintiffs are informed and believe on that basis alleged that defendant Smokey Robinson threatened plaintiffs with violence because they are females and were alone with him when the threats of acts of violence occurred. As direct and proximate result of defendant Smokey Robinson's actions, plaintiffs were harmed and have suffered and continue to suffer special and general charges in extreme physical and emotional distress, humiliation, mental and physical pain, and other damage in amount to be proven at trial, but not less than $50 million. Now, remember, this $50 million, you know, if granted, is going to be split between the 4 Jane Does. Smokey's conduct constituted fraud, oppression, and/or malice, and was in conscious disregard of the rights and safety of plaintiffs, such as to warrant the imposition of punitive damages pursuant to, and they give the code, as a further and direct result of defendant Smokey Robinson's actions and alleged herein, plaintiffs have incurred and continue to incur legal fees, costs, and other expenses in the prosecution of this matter, which they are entitled to recover. So I don't know if they're trying to get the 50 million and then also have him pay for their legal fees, but I get it, right? The Bang Act, like a lot of this that's in here, I never heard of before. But defendant Smokey Robinson interfered with or attempted to interfere with plaintiffs' clearly established rights under United States and California law, including but not limited to plaintiffs' rights of protection from bodily restraint and harm and personal insult by threats of intimidation and coercion. During the scope of their appointment, defendant Smokey Robinson intimidated plaintiffs with threats of further violence because they are females and were alone with him when the threats and acts of violence occurred. Plaintiffs reasonably believe that if they exercise their rights guaranteed by the United States and California law, defendant Smokey Robinson would have committed further violence against them in addition to actual acts of violence alleged herein. So again, that's why they said they want no less than this $50 million. Of course, we see how it was a hostile work environment and where the sexual harassment came in, because we read all of that. Constructive discharge in violation of FEHA. Again, I never really heard of this either, but it's forced and offensive sexual conduct by unwanted touching and are by defendant Robinson. Specifically, defendant Robinson would inappropriately touch plaintiffs, forcibly removing their pants, bras, panties, and repeatedly orally arming them. It's sad. Violation of labor code because he failed to pay minimum wage. What is the minimum wage in California? But they said, and you know, that doesn't even matter because they said they work 10-hour days. They would so plaintiffs were regularly required to work 10 hours per day, 6 days per week. Plaintiffs were not paid for the hours worked in excess of 8 hours daily and additional hours worked in excess of 40 hours weekly, and does not pay minimum wage for all hours worked. I don't know what's with these celebrities and not wanting to pay people. It's just insane. Failing to pay overtime wages. Well, that's they kind of mentioned above too, right? Because they didn't get paid overtime. Inaccurate wage statements. So they must have just gave them either like they just worked 40 hours or you know, they didn't give them what they truly work because they, you know, they wasn't paying them the hours that they work. So it says defendants intentionally and willfully failed to provide plaintiffs with accurate wage statements, as no wage statements were furnished to plaintiffs whatsoever. So how could they even file taxes? Failure to provide rest periods. So plaintiffs regularly work without any rest periods as mandated by California labor laws. Labor law code, no employer shall require any employee to work during any meal or rest period mandated by an applicable order of Industrial Welfare Commission. If an employer fails to provide an employee a meal or rest period in accordance with an applicable order of the Industrial Welfare Commission, the employer shall pay the employee 1 additional hour of pay at the employee's regular rate of compensation for each workday that the meal or rest period is not provided. At all times, plaintiffs, employee, and defendants as non-exempt employees, they were not regularly provided with a 10-minute rest period for every 4 hours of work. Okay. Due to defendants' failure to provide plaintiffs with their mandated rest periods. Where am I at? Hold on 1 second. Hey, Wayne. Oh, Emmanuel said in California is 16.50 cents an hour. Okay. As the minimum wage. Let me see what else is here. This prayer for relief kind of goes into every lawsuit, but I'll read some of it. Wherefore, on all causes of actions, plaintiffs pray that judgment be entered in their favor and against all defendants, and each of them as follows. First cause of action, general damages in amount to be determined by proof at trial, but in the amount not less than $50 million. Special damages in amount to be determined by proof at trial, prejudgment. The second cause of action, again, they saying each cause of action I don't know if they want $50 million altogether. Are they saying for each one they owe $50 million? Because they have the $50 million in each one of these actions. Whew, that's a lot. I kind of summarized it for y'all, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Smokey Robinson, can you imagine? Wayne, what are your thoughts? Smokey Robinson, 85.
I had just got in. I didn't know you was live.
Yeah,
So I
it's
didn't
just,
hear the beginning of it.
well, I'll give you the clip notes. The clip notes is he's being accused of SA by 4 former housekeepers, and it's a span of a lot of years, and it's deplorable. And they're saying that his wife is no better. They saying his wife knew about who he was because they paid people off. It seems like this entertainment industry is so sleazy because they're saying that prior to them even coming to speak out, that he paid people off to shut up that he did it to before them. So he's pretty much being accused of some Diddy-like behavior, right? He's not paying the people their right money and they've been working hours. He would violate them on a regular basis. He seemed to have this blue room that he would summons them to in the house, and he seemed to have this thing about laying down the towel on the linen so the linen wouldn't get messed up, but he would totally violate them. What are your thoughts?
Well, I have a friend who don't know him. Hold on. I forgot I had my TV. Wait. Oh, hold on, Diva. Go to Julius. I'll be right. Hold on.
Okay. Julius, your thoughts. Increased Matter says, don't believe any of this mess. So you think all 4 of these Jane Doe's Increased Matters is lying? You think all of them are telling lies? I don't know.
Oh Lord, not Green Eyes.
The Green Eye Bandit.
The Green Eye Bandit Diva. Oh, not Green Eyes.
Mm.
Listen, I'm speaking for my mom because Smokey is her man, but if I tell her this, she gonna be devastated because Smokey's supposed to be her husband in her head. Anywho, the description of the allegations, I do have to say, are quite horrific. They are quite horrific, and whew, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what kind of potion Cat Williams had when he appeared on Club Shay Shay, but dang, I thought 2024 was the year of exposure. Is he sure he didn't mean to go into 2025 with it? Cause golly.
He did say some prediction about 2025, but I forgot. He said it was going to be the year of something. I forgot what he said. But
well, it looks like it's the year of like all of us being in the group chat when we don't want to. I'm just saying, golly.
Well, see, you know what? I hear you, Increase Matters. But the problem is that allegedly and unfortunately, many people in the Diddy situation kept going back. Little Rodney himself told us all of this stuff. Diddy would call you in the shower. He'd be in the shower and want to meet with you, and he in there showering, ain't got no clothes on. And Little Rodney kept going back. So I don't. And then one of them said, I think they was illegal, or they was in the process of getting like their paperwork. But again, they said that other people was paid off. It is reminding me of Shannon Sharp. They saying he had 24 prior cases and he paid off 23 out of the 24. I don't know why these people go back. Well, it's a rough conversation to have. Go ahead, Julius. Did you finish?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Wayne, your thoughts?
I wouldn't put it past them because this is the year people are getting uncovered, and I don't see 40 women, and they probably all don't know each other.
Four.
Huh? 4?
Uh-huh.
4. I don't know. They know each other, all telling the same story. But I have a friend who's about the age of Smokey Robinson up there, and came from that area up there. She lived in Ohio, whatever. And um, Smokey Robinson was at some gathering she was at, or at her play, whatever. And he called her. He wanted to holler at her, and he called her a yellow bee.
Mm.
A yellow, and of course she handled it because she's like that. She handled it, but I'm not surprised that people are coming out because when they came up with that law, lift the statute of limitations on SA or something like that, or if they file for it, whatever. And I think it's pulling some of them out the woodwork. And then when they hear some of the monies that's getting, when Cassie got paid, it it was opening up a payday not just for her from Diddy, but a whole bunch of other celebrities, and they all have a lot of the same patterns. So I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. And I never looked at Smokey Robinson like he was, anything other than just a singer. You know, but what they call it, the chickens are coming out the roost or something like that. One of those.
Uh-huh.
That's
Uh-huh.
it.
I mean, it's sad that, and I wonder, somebody Google for me how old the wife is. I'm guessing she's of similar age. I mean, she looks good in this picture, but the problem I'm having is I feel like the wife was being mean to these individuals because she knew what, and they look like they could be brother and sister, right? I feel like the wife was being mean to them because she knew what her husband was doing with them. But she liked her comfortable lifestyle because at the end of the day, why did the wife stay? We can ask, why did these people kept going back? Why did the wife stay? And I'm saying this respectfully because we're having a conversation. Why did Camille Cosby stay? Some people value their lifestyle over their peace of mind. And then I also think that after a while, I almost feel like people get used to how can I say this? Oh, she's 72. Thank you, Emmanuel. I feel like they get used to whatever they're doing becomes their norm. And I think it was her norm. That's just Smokey. That's what he does. But I get to have my Gucci, my Louis, my housekeepers, live in my nice home, go where I want to go and do what I want to do, and I'm not leaving. And now she's caught up in this lawsuit. They said, and he even said to them, allegedly, that if you don't do what I want, I'm going to have my wife be mean to you. And even on not even jobs with just celebrities, sometimes when you're at regular jobs and they know that you, quote unquote, maybe need the job, they will treat you a certain kind of way, thinking, oh, you need this job and you're not going to go there. I couldn't understand from the title, people in the chat, can anyone tell? Mimi, it's the title says the full lawsuit reading for Smokey Robinson sued for $50 million. That's what this is about. And I already finished reading the lawsuit because I didn't read it word for word. And I didn't want to read it word for word because it's graphic. It's graphic. But all the ladies said, they took advantage of them. He took advantage of them. And I feel like he took advantage of them knowing that, like, they perhaps were illegal or they was trying to get their green card. And I feel like that's why he did it. And maybe, unfortunately, they thought in their mind, sometimes he's being sued for SA. He's being sued for a Diddy-like behavior but without the substances. But, they said Diddy liked to, walk around nude. Diddy would call you into a meeting and he'd be in the bathroom in the shower. They said he would come out. So it seemed like he was a little, well, I can't say really OCD because they said that he was not using protection. So God only knows allegedly how many STDs he probably was giving people. This is sad. He violated his employees. But again, I will say this, because most of them, I think the Jane Does, if I go back to it, they all talk about 2024, 2023. Again, I'm going to say this respectfully. Why not at least file a criminal case? Now, I will tell you this. When I did a story the other day about SA, it slipped in my mind what story it was. It was the Shannon Sharp story. I did get, an email from, one of my subs to pretty much say that, that unfortunately they suffered from being in a relationship that was domestic violence. And they also said that they went to the cops and the cops didn't protect them. And let me tell you this. There are some stories out there of regular people where we know these people got restraining orders. They did different things. They did go to the police and they were not protected. There's stories out there where there were other sports players, and not even necessarily like professional sports players, but maybe the high school sports player or the college sports player, and the people reported it and everybody pushed it under the rug because they didn't want to lose the status of having that player on the team or in the game. So I do understand that, especially when it's a Smokey Robinson. Like, I'm going to tell on Smokey Robinson who's going to back me up, who's going to believe me over this man who, when you see him in his professional world, you would never think that he could perhaps be doing something like this, allegedly behind closed doors. I don't know. All the ladies seem to have the same story about this blue room, about them not paying. At the very least, I think they're probably definitely going to be able to prove the fact that there was forced labor, and they didn't get paid their right wages, and they didn't get paid, for their breaks and holidays and all of that. So I think at the very least, they can easily prove that, because if you work for him and he never produced any W-2s and all of that, you got at least piece of your case right there. To me, is going to be the easy part, so to speak. But I can't discount their story. I can't say this did or did not happen. But it's at 85. Can you imagine? At 85. And so these are not accusations that he did allegedly when he was in his 30s, 40s, 50s. They're saying at 85, this man was doing this to them. So who's this? James Tabak was sued for SA for 1.6 billion. The victim won. Whoo! I gotta look that up. I don't know who that is, Trixie, but 1.6 billion and the victim won. I wonder, does this person have money? Does this man have a lot of money? Do you think that this victim will ever see any of her winnings? Thank you for that information. Emmanuel, I'm feeling like that's what it was. Because they said the wife allegedly would call them names, explicit names. It's it's sad. I reported SA when I was young to the police, did nothing. I reported it again last year, and through lack of evidence, he got found not guilty. It was traumatic. So Claire, thank you for sharing, and I'm so sorry that happened to you. But a lot of people are saying that, and they feel like they're victimized twice, and that's why they don't speak up, so to speak. So sorry that happened to you. Before I close out, because I just wanted to do a quick live for the reading of that case. I might do a trending topics later on tonight. It depends. I have something to do. So it depends on what time I finish doing what I need to do. But before I close out, Wayne, any final thoughts?
No,
Okay. Julius, any final thoughts?
No, ma'am. We good over her.
All right. So, this is unfortunately like a very serious topic, and it's so sad. And all I could say is, if you have workers, treat them right. Treat them right. Smokey, my uncle, we freaks. He did it too. And he got the nerve. He has the nerve that he has an album out now. What is the name of that album? it's so ironic, the name of his What the World Needs Now. I think that's the title of his album that he has out now. What the World Needs Now, Smokey, is not another Smokey Robinson. It's a shame. Yeah, I'm going to investigate further. Yeah, I mean, time will tell, but again, I have to ask, like, I just would like to know, like, why not go to the cops and report him? I don't know. It's just, because if you got up the nerve, so to speak, to go to a lawyer, and they all seem to be using the same lawyer. So I'm guessing they spoke and it was like, oh, it's happening to you, it's happening to you, it's happening to you. That's kind of how the Me Too movement came about, right? Because one person said, oh, this person did XYZ, and the next person was like, oh my God, they did that to me too. Did they go to Tony Buzzy? They did not go to Tony Buzzy. I'll pull it up really quickly again. Let me stop sharing. They went to a law firm in California. Okay, here it is.
Do all of them have the same attorney, or he representing all of them?
No, all of them have the same attorney. It's this Harris and Hayden. It's in California. That's their attorneys. So James Doe 1 through 4 all share the same attorney, and it's against William Robinson Jr., the aka Smokey Robinson, and Frances Robinson, the wife, right? And then they name about 20 Doe's 1 through 25. I'm not sure if maybe it was security or workers within the Robinson home, where maybe they're just naming those individuals, but they don't know their names. And that's why they just said that 1 through 5. And like I said, there are 16 complaint for damages against them. Some of them I think is going to be easy and a no-brainer, and that's these low ones, like failure to provide meal periods. I think they're going to probably easily get that. Failure to provide rest periods, I think that's going to be an easy one for them. Inaccurate wage statements, I think that's going to be easy for them. Failure to pay overtime, I think they're going to easily get that. Failure to pay minimum wage, they're going to easily get that. Hostile work environment, they probably will get that too. Constructive discharge and violation, those I'm not really sure of. And negligence, they probably can get that. It's all of the SA stuff and the gender violence. It all depends on, again, how much proof they have. But for those that came late, I will say this, they go through Jane 1 through 4, and where their similarities lie is this blue room in one of his homes that he would summons them to. And, he would have this same routine of what he would do before he allegedly violated them. And it's horrific, it's graphic, and it's a lot. I personally can't see that for people just coming up and making this up. But I don't know. Listen, people do crazy, stranger things have happened, but it seems like it's too many similarities. And again, the only thing I could think of as to why they stayed is because maybe they were undocumented. I don't know. I can't get it. And maybe they felt like, where else am I going to go to get a job? But to me, the one that worked on the weekend, and I'm not trying to minimize any of the victims and their stories, the one that worked on the weekend, in my mind, I would kind of guess that maybe you worked only on the weekend because you had another job, and maybe you should have stayed at the other job and never came back to Smokey. But I'm also of the mindset that a lot of these celebrities, they share people, so to speak, if you know what I'm trying to say. They share workers, and they allegedly probably underpay all of their workers, and maybe some of them violate their workers. Because I have heard, and not just even with SA, I read a lot of stories about celebrities that just seem to not want to pay the people. It's like crazy to me. Okay, Trixie, thanks so much. So James Sabat is an American screenwriter and film director. The movie I know of his is Bugsy. Okay, I'm gonna look it up. But wow, $1.6 billion is a lot of money. I also, that the crazy thing about a civil lawsuit, I guess there is no limit on how much money you could sue for and ask for in case you win. And it seems like with a lot of these civil lawsuits, it seems like the jury is like, yeah, give him 100 million, give him 50 million, give him XYZ. It's crazy. So again, he was just raping these women and no one kicked his behind. Yeah, Marcy. I will add this. Let me add this before I close out. There's a lot of shame that comes with when somebody violates you. And maybe, you know, and I think the more that it happens, the more shame and embarrassed you get. And then, you know, all of us have our breaking point. And, you know, maybe their tolerance level and their breaking point was different than some of us other people. I don't know. These stories are getting so difficult to decipher and break down because, you know, you get this roadblock of why didn't you go to report it to the police and why did you stay so long? And it's so easy for us to say that. So I don't know. I have to marinate on this a little bit more. Katrina, you just came in the building. Any thoughts before I close out?
No, Diva, I'm sorry to be late on the train. I catch the replay though. Sorry, y'all. Hello, passengers. Hello, chat.
No, you're fine. I actually just did an impromptu because this Smokey Robinson case just came out of nowhere. So I just kind of did an impromptu, you know, to talk about it because I actually got a copy of the lawsuit. And, you know, I just was saying to myself, oh my God, at 85, this is what you're doing. 85.
Smokey Robinson and the women said that he SA'd them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The one that you least expect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Smokey. You wouldn't expect nothing like that from Smokey. Be for real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been in Motown for how long? He the one helped the Jacksons get on their feet. Oh God, these people don't surprise me anymore. I mean, they don't surprise me no more. They all have some type of deep past, substance abuse, and just let that money go to their head. So I guess the saying is true. Money is the root of all evil.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the money; it's the intention behind the people that got the money.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I got, Diva.
Yeah, thank you. Most definitely shame, Diva. And here you have a no tell mentality, no talk. Yeah, the shame, once the shame gets to you, it wears you down. It wears you down. The shame wears you down. And then the longer you allow it to happen, the more you blame yourself and the more deeper in shame you go. So I'm praying for these individuals. What I hope, I keep saying I'm about to close out, but I'm serious about to close out. But you know what I hope, really? I hope with the exposure of like the whole Diddy situation, now the Smokey Robinson situation, what is his name? Bill Cosby, the Weinstein, the people from Abercrombie and Fitch. I'm hoping people will realize that now, no matter what industry they want to be in, that choose yourself over that industry if you're going to lose your soul just to move forward in said industry. Because I think at the end of the day, even if they give in to whatever the person's saying to give into, later on they end up taking up some vice, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs. So they end up destroying themselves anyway, and they don't get the enjoy the fruits of their labor. That's why I preach over here all the time, and I'm very serious, and I really mean this when I say this, that don't get connected to things. Nothing is wrong with things. I love my things and I love to shop, okay? But I'm okay if I'm driving a Hyundai and not a BMW, if the only way I can drive a BMW is to sell my soul to the devil. Can everybody understand that? That's why I said, listen, yeah, they're trying to wash away the pain, Wayne, with the drugs and the alcohol, and then you just really, destroy your whole life. So
I'm just thinking if Hugh Hefner was still alive, I just wonder how many lawsuits he would have.
That part, because if you notice, a lot of his ex Playboy bunnies, they were speaking out, talking about how they didn't even like sleeping with him. They didn't like what he did, but he definitely, there's a lot of stuff that went down in that Playboy Mansion that Bill Cosby got taken down for, but there was a lot of people, I have to say allegedly, that was doing the same thing. We could have a discussion about her one day. Increase matters. That's another sad situation. Her pain was so bad that she took her own life because, and then just recently, and the Harvey Weinstein, because he's retrial or whatever, this man just needs to go away. But one of his alleged victims, she walked out of the court because she was pissed, saying like, y'all not going to sit here and try to tell me that this man didn't do what he did to me. So it's not easy for anyone to speak up in that situation. And you can understand both sides. You can understand the person that finally gets the courage to speak up. You can understand the person is like, no, I don't want to say nothing. I already moved on with my life. I don't even want to revisit that part of my life. So Diddy is fortunate, and I have to say allegedly, that a lot of his victims, they just don't want to even speak because they don't want to revisit that part of their life because they don't want to get re-traumatized. So it's not that they're trying to save him, they're trying to save themselves. So it's a sad situation. This Virginia story, it's just heartbreaking. Yes, he's a problematic freak. And my thing is with those celebrities, you can't tell me that you can't get people that just throw it at you every day. You got to take it from somebody. And I will never understand what pleasure you are getting out of taking something from somebody. The enjoyment to me is that you are with somebody, you like them, they like you, and y'all having fun together. But you forcing somebody to do it, I don't understand how they get any type of pleasure in that. And if he did what they said he did, then he needs to pay. And to me, just like some of y'all said in the chat, essay is usually about power. Yeah. Like some of y'all said in the chat, they sent Bill Cosby to jail in his old age. They could send Smokey Robinson too. And it seemed like the wife was complicit, like Camille Cosby, because she wanted to stay in her lifestyle, her comfy lifestyle. I didn't even realize he was married. I'm closing out. Any final thoughts, Katrina, before I close out?
Now, these people need to value themselves more than they value materialistic things. I know the maids was there or whatsoever, and he was supposed to grape them and all that. But the four maids, and and you got a wife, and I know some men get turned on about the grape thing. It's a whole little grape, uh, a community out there. Because I was telling Wayne, I saw an episode of this on SVU of this guy. He just went around raping women, and that would turn him on. He was watching grape horn that was turning him on. These people are sick. And like you said, they get all this status, this money, and they still ain't happy. They still doing nefarious things. I don't get it. You got all this. They just go to show you can have all the wealth in the world, but you still don't have nothing in your heart. Because anybody with something in their heart, they won't take the chance to lose at hard work. Because going on the road, doing these shows and stuff is not an easy thing. So you taking the time to go back to do these to these people because you're not self-fulfilled. And that's a sad situation when you are. I mean, you Smokey Robinson. I mean, it's you really don't know what to do anymore because you would never thought. You never heard any stories about Smokey. You heard about all these other people, but you've never really heard anything about Smokey. And that's just the thing is why do you, I mean we can't tell nobody when to come out and all this type of stuff. But maybe if somebody would have came out, maybe they could have helped the other person instead of letting the other person and then the other person get in that situation. So all they do is take one person to talk, and then maybe that person would say, "Well, no, I don't want to work there," or "I'm not going there." And I'm not saying they will, but I'm just saying if that one person would say something, maybe the next won't go into that trap. You know, we got the same thing with Diddy and Cassie. She saw what happened to Kim, but you thought you was better. You thought you weren't gonna get the smackdown, and you got the same identical thing while you was laughing at Kim. And now you want us to feel sorry for you, which I'm not saying we shouldn't. But you saw what happened to this other woman, and you hopped your tail right in the same situation. Well, because you thought you was light skinned that you was gonna get away with it. And no, I'm not being a colorist, But I'm just saying, you thought you was gonna get away. He was gonna just let you get away with it. You saw one woman went through one thing. Men don't change like that. If he's an abuser to one, he gonna be abused to the other. And you put your own stuff in that situation. But that's all I got.
Thank you, Katrina. Listen, yeah, there are allegations right now. Bad Bunny, I like you. You could have gave me my title for the day. Smokey, where there's smoke, there's fire. I like that title. Shannon Sharp. Yeah. Come on, Trixie. Thanks for the reminder. Shannon Sharp just wanted to give his daughter a wedding for $30K, ready to throw 10 million to 20 million to the kid. You ain't never lied. I don't understand it. I don't understand their thought process. I don't understand the foolery. I don't understand the nastiness. And I'm not saying nastiness because you want to have sex. I'm saying nastiness because you want to violate someone and take it from them. And then you're violating me and you're not even using protection. So it's like a double violation because whenever you're nasty behind God, you're giving it to me. And then you're relieving yourself all over me because that is your little kick. You're getting a pleasure out of it. And I'm feeling humiliated. It's disgusting. It's not right. If I had to close out, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say this. We all have our instincts, and we got to learn to go back to trusting ourselves. When something ain't right, don't smell right, don't look right, don't feel right, just leave. And if you're wrong, whatever. But if you were right, you saved yourself. And the money they was getting, because they wasn't even really getting paid. But again, I'm going back to, I think they was illegal. But I was saying the money they was getting, they could have went and worked at a fast food restaurant. They would have got their same 18 or whatever, $10, whatever he was paying them. They would have got paid for their overtime. They would have got holiday pay. They would have got vacations. They would have got their lunch break and other breaks. So it's not even like they was getting paid no real money. I could see if he was giving them like $200,000. I'm saying I could see it, but I'm not saying I was saying it. But I could see if they was getting $100,000 to $200,000 per year to be this housekeeper. He wasn't even paying them. He was treating them like slaves. We're going to see how this goes down. Does anybody know before I close out, how much is he worth? How much is Smokey Robinson worth? Let me Google real quick. I don't know. Oh, they saying his net worth is 150 million. Well, sir, in your old age, give up 50 million. Oh, you got 300 million, the one? Thank you. Yeah, I saw 150 million, but either way, you know what? Now you're going to lose 50 million. But I have a feeling, Trixie said he wrote many songs. I have a feeling though, like somebody said, today is 4. It's probably going to come out and be a whole bunch. Now, Mimi, I do remember Matt Lauer from NBC. He had a secret lock on his office door. Crazy. I do remember. Disgusting. These men are problematic. It's sad. Listen, guys, thanks for coming through for my early, I didn't even call it trending topics. I was doing just a reading of that lawsuit. I might have something to do. I might have a short express train of trending topics later, but thank you guys for being here. Yes, I am. No, Q, thank you so much. I do plan to come back with a trending topics show. It all depends on my next little thing I have to do, how soon I finish doing that. But thank you guys for popping in. This is disgusting. I will tell you this also. Protect your children. Talk to your kids. Tell them what they should and should not and don't have to tolerate on any given job. And always have an open door as long as you live for your children to be able to come back to your home if they need to. Let them know they have a safe space and a safe place to come back to. So they don't have to feel like they have to be out there tolerating the nonsense. Listen, guys, I appreciate y'all for coming through. If you didn't hit that like button on the way in, please hit it on the way out. Good night and goodbye, everybody.